Today, in 2026, Rabia Malik lives in a small apartment somewhere in southern France. She is a woman in her 40s, with the careful posture of someone who has learned that her body needs to be carried, not run. She sleeps poorly. She wakes often. She says, when she trusts you enough to say it, that she lives in a state she calls reception mode. Break ones. What she means is this: when she walks down a street, she can feel the grief of strangers. When she sits in a cafe, she can feel which of the dead have visited the woman 2 tables away. When she closes her eyes at night, she can hear voices that the other people in the room do not hear. She did not ask for any of this. What happened to her in 2002 on a dark road in the south of Algeria, on the edge of the Sahara, is the reason. Break 1.5s. For 19 years, Rabia did not know what to call it. She knew there had been an accident. She knew there had been a hospital. She knew, in the way that someone knows a dream they have not entirely woken from, that something had happened to her in those 24 hours of unconsciousness. Something that did not have a name in the world she had grown up in. She also knew, with a stranger certainty, that she had met a young girl during that time. A girl who had held her hand. A girl who had told her not to fall asleep. A girl whose long hair had brushed against her face on the asphalt while a truck approached. A girl whose name she did not know. Break 2s. In 2018, after 16 years of looking for it, she accepted the name for what she had lived. It was a near-death experience. 1 year after that, in 2019, she found the young girl, a flamenco dancer living in Spain. Her name was Rosa. The encounter lasted 1 week. Break 1s. This is the story of how a Muslim woman, hit by a car in a sandstorm in the Algerian Sahara, met a Catholic flamenco dancer from Spain 17 years before she was permitted to remember her name. It is also the story of the other woman she met that night. The woman she did not recognize. The tall woman with the long hair who looked at her in the hospital of light and said, "And we will tell you what she said and what it meant and what is being asked of you by the end of this video. But to understand what was asked of Rabia, you have to understand what can be proved. So we will begin there." Before we tell you what Rabia saw, let us tell you what can be documented. There is first the report of the Algerian National Gendarmerie. It records the date, 2002. It records the location, a road approximately 15 kilometers from the nearest town, in the south of the country, on the edge of the Sahara Desert. It records the speed of the vehicle that hit her, 80 kilometers per hour. It records the conditions, a sandstorm with reduced visibility, the streetlights around the hotel out of service, the driver of the bus that had just dropped her off having let her down at a non-official stop on the road as a courtesy because he knew her. Break 1.5s. There is, second, the hospital record. There is a double fracture of the right tibia and the right fibula. There is a fracture of the right hand. There are fractures of the 4th, 5th, 6th, and 7th ribs on the right side. There is, the record notes, what trauma surgery calls a flail chest, meaning those broken ribs had become detached from the surrounding wall and were moving paradoxically with each breath she tried to take. Untreated, a flail chest will kill you within hours. Treated, it requires immediate stabilization and a thoracic belt, and a surgical team that knows what it is doing. Break 1s. The treatment is documented as well. A silver plate was placed between her teeth to allow the surgical team to reposition the bones in her right leg. A thoracic belt was prepared. An anesthesiologist was called in. Break 1s. There is, third, the chart note that the anesthesia did not take effect on the first attempt. The exact words spoken by the team member who noticed this were, in French, words that Rabia would later, much later, after she had regained consciousness, after the 6 months of physical rehabilitation that followed, repeat in her own written account. What's going on? The anesthesia hasn't taken effect. She would also report having said at that exact moment that the alignment of the bone on the X-ray was off by a few millimeters. This is a detail no patient under general anesthesia should be able to perceive. It is also a detail confirmed in the radiology report. Break 1.5s. There is, fourth, the duration, 24 hours of deep coma, 6 months of physical rehabilitation. Break 1s. And there is, fifth, the part of the record that does not appear in the medical chart, because no medical chart was written about it. There is Rosa. Rosa, the flamenco dancer in Spain, encountered in 2019. Real woman, real name, real profession. Real. In 2002, Rabia did not know any flamenco dancers. She did not know anyone named Rosa. She had never been to Spain. But during the 24 hours that the medical record describes as deep coma, Rabia met her. She held her hand. She heard her speak. She felt her hair on her own face on the asphalt under a sandstorm at 8:35 at night, 15 kilometers from a Saharan town, in a country Rosa had never visited. We do not yet have language in any field of human knowledge that is sufficient for what that means. We have the meeting. That is what we have. Rabia, in 2002, was not yet the woman she would become. She was, by her own description, an ordinary working woman in her late 20s. She worked at a hotel establishment in the south of Algeria, the kind of small commercial post that exists at the desert's edge, serving travelers, oil workers, occasional tourists. She was Muslim. She had been raised in the tradition. She knew the Shahada, the declaration of faith, in the way one knows the prayer one was taught as a child, before one understood that prayers were anything more than what families said together. Break 1.5s. She had had no spiritual experiences. She had not been seeking. She had not been ill. She was a woman whose life, that evening, was simply not going to be especially interesting. Break 1s. It was her night off. She had taken the bus into town, 15 kilometers away, to run errands, to walk a little, to have a coffee. She had finished. She was on the way back. She was hungry. She was tired. She was thinking, in the way that one thinks at the end of a long, ordinary day, about getting back to her room, about washing her face, about sleep. Break 1s. The hotel where she worked was, that night, almost invisible. A sandstorm had come down from the north, the kind of storm that does not announce itself with thunder, that simply rolls in from the open desert and lowers the sky. The streetlights that ordinarily marked the road to the hotel had gone out. We do not know now whether they had failed in the storm or had been turned off for the night. We know only that they were dark. The bus driver, who knew her, decided to be kind. Rather than letting her off at the regular stop a few hundred meters further on, he stopped the bus on the road that led most directly to the hotel. He waved goodbye. He drove on. The taillights disappeared into the storm in seconds. Break 1s. Rabia stepped down onto the asphalt. She adjusted her bag. She turned to cross the road. She did not see the car. The car, as it would turn out, did not see her either. Break 2s. What happened next took something less than a second. It is the second of her life that, 24 years later, she is still trying to understand. At approximately 8:35 in the evening, on a road in the south of Algeria, on the edge of the Sahara, a sedan moving at 80 kilometers per hour struck Rabia Malik. The driver, according to his subsequent statement to the gendarmerie, had also failed to see her. The sandstorm and the absent streetlights had reduced visibility to near zero, and he was within meters of impact before his headlights caught the shape of her shoulder. The headlights were the last thing she saw before the strike. Her body was thrown several meters down the road. Break 2s. She did not lose consciousness. This is the first detail of her account that anyone trying to understand it must hold steadily. Rabia did not pass through a moment of darkness before her experience began. The moment of the strike did not interrupt her awareness. It changed the quality of her awareness. She would describe this in her later written account as a state of expanded consciousness, more aware than I had ever been. Break 1s. Her body was on the asphalt. She could not move. Her right hand was fractured. Her right leg in 2 places was fractured. Her right ribs, 4 of them, were fractured. She did not yet know any of this. She only knew that nothing on her right side would respond. She could hear voices. People were running toward her. Someone shouted in French, "Your co-worker has had an accident." The word co-worker, colleague, meant that the people running toward her had recognized her uniform. Break 1.5s. And then she became aware of a second vehicle. Behind the car that had hit her, a truck was approaching. She did not know how far. She did not know how fast. She knew only that she was lying in the middle of a road in a sandstorm in the dark, and she could not get out of the way. She covered her head with her left hand. Her right hand could not be lifted. Chictus. It is at this moment, with a woman in a destroyed body, covering her head against a second car she could not see, on a road where the street lights were out, in a country in which the night had no other witnesses, that the young girl appeared. She was crouched just above Rabia's head. Her long hair brushed against Rabia's face. She said, "Why are you covering your head?" Rabia answered, "I'm afraid of the light from the approaching truck." And the young girl said, "Don't be afraid of the truck, it's still far away. Look closely at this light, it's here to protect you." Break 1.5s. When Rabia looked, she saw it. A rectangular shape of light hovering above the scene. Geometric, solid, sealed. It surrounded the entire accident site like a protective dome. The sandstorm did not pass through it. The truck, when it came, did not pass through it either. For the first time since the impact, Rabia felt peace. Break 1s. Some minutes later, she does not know how many, the emergency responders arrived. She was lifted into a vehicle. The medical record begins from this moment. The other record, the one we are about to enter, does not appear on any chart. What follows from this point forward is what Rabia herself reports. The medical record continues. The transport to the hospital, the surgical preparation, the failed anesthesia, but it does not contain what she experienced. What she experienced exists only in her testimony. We will use her words. Break 2s. She was placed in the back of a vehicle. The driver was an officer of the National Gendarmerie, working that night with a security guard who was still on probation. They seemed to Rabia to know each other already. She was laid across the back seat. Her throat began to fill with blood. Her breathing weakened. Break 1s. The young girl was still there. She was sitting somewhere near Rabia's head. She never looked away. The girl said again, "Don't fall asleep. Don't close your eyes." Break 1's Rabia, sensing the limit, turned to the driver and said, in the careful and deliberate way that one says important things when one is not certain there will be time to say them again, that she believed she was nearing the end of her life. The driver, hearing this, said, "Recite the Shahada." Rabia answered that she had. She said it again now, for him. "I bear witness that there is no deity but God, and that Mohammed is his prophet and messenger." The young girl beside her said quietly, "Don't speak any further." Break 2s. Something in Rabia's perception shifted at that instant. The two men in the vehicle, the driver and the probationary guard, became, in her words, no longer present in my field of vision. She felt herself moving through a dark tunnel. The light at the end of the tunnel gradually intensified. She arrived at the hospital. Break 1.5s. What she remembers next is not lying on the table. It is floating above the table. She could see her body below her. She could see the team. She could see in the corner of the room a colleague, a co-worker from the hotel, who appeared distressed. She would later confirm that this colleague had been called and had come. The lead surgeon called her by name. He asked, "Can you hear me?" She said, "Yes." He explained, in clinical detail, what they were about to do. The silver plate between the teeth, the thoracic belt for the ribs, the X-ray. He held the X-ray up. She remembered the X-ray. She remembered noticing that the bone on the X-ray was misaligned by a few millimeters, and saying so out loud. She remembered a voice in the operating room, not the surgeon's, saying, "What's going on? The anesthesia hasn't taken effect." Those were the last words she heard in the room of the living. Break 2.5s. The young girl reappeared and said, "Come on, we have to go." What followed in Rabia's account was a place that does not appear on any medical chart, and that we will describe to you in her own words, because the words are hers. She was carried by what she does not know into another hospital room. But it was not the same hospital. There were silhouettes there. Some of them shone with light. Others were dark. Voices echoed. One voice kept repeating, "Help the young girl. She's drowning." Beside her, the young girl gestured with her hands, drowning hands, signaling something. But Rabia could not move to help her. Break 1.5s. A deep silence fell. From the end of a hallway, a woman's voice declared, "Make way, the Lord is coming. Step aside and clear the path." When she looked up, Rabia saw 4 figures. 1 woman, 3 men. They were surrounded by an intense light. She recognized 3 of them. The first was the Lord Jesus. The second was the prophet Mohammed. The third introduced himself as the god Shiva. The fourth, the woman, she did not recognize. Break 2s. And as she looked at them, the bleeding in her body, the bleeding that had been filling her throat, that had been pouring from her broken side, that had been the thing pulling her toward death, stopped. The Lord Jesus and the prophet Mohammed approached her together. They placed their hands on her chest. She heard a voice say, "Now you have grace." A feeling of wholeness, peace, and well-being overwhelmed her. The silhouettes in the room, the shining ones and the dark ones, rushed forward. They were not reaching for her. They were reaching for the hand of the Lord Jesus. The young girl beside her explained, "It's not your chest they are drawn to. It is the energy they want to absorb." Break 1.5s. And then the tall woman, the one Rabia had not recognized, stepped closer. She looked at Rabia. She said, "This is the second time I have seen you." Rabia answered. She answered as someone answers a question they did not know they remembered. She said, "Yes, my lord, but this time I was really in pain." When the impositions of the hands ended, the tall woman spoke again. She said, "Get up. Follow the hand of the Lord Jesus." Rabia felt, in her account, an energetic push that propelled her forward. She turned back briefly and saw her own body lying on the bloodied stretcher, unmoving, half-covered, in a hospital room she had already begun to leave. The path that opened in front of her was made of a strange ground. She describes it as a mixture of red earth and golden sand. The colors of the Algerian desert she had grown up walking, but altered. The further she advanced, the more the ground transformed. In some places it became crystalline, refracting light from inside itself. In others, it became something she has never since had a name for. Break 1.5s. The young girl walked beside her. They arrived, after what felt like time and was not time, at a vast platform. The platform, in Rabia's account, was occupied by countless beings. Some were silhouettes of light. Some were silhouettes of shadow. Some had features that she recognized as roughly human. Most did not. Break 1s. Among the assembled beings, Rabia counted what she would later estimate as thousands of distinct biological forms. The young girl, walking beside her, explained that only 2 of these forms had a significant genetic similarity to human beings. Humans, she said, were a minority on this platform. Break 2s. Rabia, intrigued by their posture, asked the young girl, "Why are they all looking at the sky?" The young girl squeezed her hand and smiled with what Rabia describes as joy of the kind I do not know how to describe. She said, "Now the show begins," and the sky lit up. Break 1.5s. Above the platform, in a spectacle that took place in tears, beings from distant civilizations began to project images of their own knowledge. She saw spacecraft of light, vessels exploring worlds whose names she did not know. She saw through them scientific principles she does not have the vocabulary to convey, but that she understood as she watched, and that have been gradually unraveling out of her mind ever since. Each civilization, in its turn, presented what it had learned, and then it was humanity's turn. Break 1s. In the sky, Rabia watched humanity project its own inheritance, the portraits of the prophets, the portraits of the scholars, the portraits of the artists, the doctors, the visionaries, the seekers. The clouds that framed the projections, she remembers, took the shape of the springtime sky of Earth, a sky she had not seen in years and that she recognized at once. She recognized faces, saints, scientists, teachers, that she had known in life, and faces she had not known but that she felt, watching them as kin. Break 1.5s. And then, in her account, the atmosphere changed. The sky began to darken. The crowd, which had been still, dispersed in all directions in what Rabia describes as a chaos and a frenzy. The young girl, holding her hand more tightly than before, said, "Come, we must go. Our time here is over. If we stay, we will lose our way." They walked into a total darkness. It was the last thing Rabia perceived before the body on the stretcher pulled her back through 6 months and 19 years. There are several things that medicine, in its current state, can tell us about Rabia's account. It can tell us that patients in polytrauma, patients with multiple severe fractures, with hemothorax, with hypoxic brain events, sometimes report experiences during the periods in which they are nominally unconscious. These reports have been documented with rigor for decades. Break 1s. It can tell us that the largest prospective study to date, the AWARE-2 study, published in 2023 by Sam Parnia and his team at NYU, found measurable EEG activity in a meaningful percentage of patients who had been clinically dead during cardiac resuscitation, including evidence of conscious awareness in cases where every available marker said awareness should not have been possible. It can tell us that Bruce Grayson, professor emeritus at the University of Virginia and one of the founders of the academic study of near-death experiences, has written for 50 years that what these accounts have in common, the lucidity of perception, the verifiability of details, the consistent emotional aftermath, is not currently reducible to oxygen deprivation, to anesthetic side effects, or to cultural conditioning. Break 1.5s. What medicine cannot tell us, and what it does not pretend to be able to tell us, is how Rabia knew that the bone on the X-ray was misaligned by a few millimeters before she had been shown the X-ray. It cannot tell us how she heard the precise words of the anesthesiologist while she was nominally under general anesthesia. It cannot tell us why her colleague was at the hospital corridor, distressed, exactly where Rabia described seeing her. A colleague Rabia later confirmed had been called and had been there at that hour, distressed, exactly as described. And it certainly cannot tell us how a woman in the Algerian Sahara, who had never been to Spain, who knew no flamenco dancers, who had no friends in Andalusia, no exposure to the dance form, no reason to dream of a girl named Rosa, how that woman met a girl during her coma whom she would, 17 years later, find living in Spain, working as a flamenco dancer named Rosa. Break 2s. The skeptical position on accounts like Rabia's has, for most of the last 50 years, been to dismiss them as confabulation. The argument is that these memories are constructed after the fact by a recovering brain trying to make sense of what was simply the random firing of a dying neural network. The problem with that argument, as Grayson has noted, is straightforward. Confabulation does not predict the future. Confabulation does not make a Muslim woman from the edge of the Sahara spend 19 years looking for a Spanish dancer she has never met, and then find her in 2019 exactly where the girl in the coma said she would be. Break 1.5s. That is not what confabulation does. What Rabia did over those 19 years is what people do when they remember something that they did not invent. There are 3 things in Rabia's account that, even today, she cannot explain. Break 1s. The first is this. When the tall woman with the long hair looked at her and said, "This is the second time I have seen you," Rabia answered. She answered as though she understood. Her words were, "Yes, my lord, but this time I was really in pain." She does not remember when the first time was. She has no memory of a previous meeting. She has no theological framework that would explain it. She is not someone who believes in past lives in any specific religious sense. But when the woman said it, she knew it was true. She answered the way someone answers when something she did not know she remembered turns out to have been remembered. Break 2s. The second is this. The tall woman pointed to the young girl, the girl who had held Rabia's hand from the moment of the impact, and asked, "Do you know her?" Rabia answered, "Yes." And the tall woman said, "She is my daughter. Take care of her." Break 1.5s. This is the moment that, when Rabia returns to it now, breaks her composure. Because she did not yet know what it meant to take care of her. She did not know that her body was going to spend 6 months relearning how to walk. She did not know that her mind was going to spend 19 years looking for a name. She did not know that the answer was going to be a flamenco dancer in Spain named Rosa, who would appear in her life for 1 week in 2019, long enough to confirm to Rabia that she existed, that she had always existed, that the promise had been kept on both sides. She did not know that taking care of Rosa would mean, in the end, simply recognizing her. Break twos. The third is this: the tall woman's last words, before sending Rabia back through the path of crystalline ground, through the rectangular protective dome, through the sandstorm, through the 6 months, through the 19 years, into the body of the woman she still inhabits today. The tall woman's last words were the only sentence that made the entire experience hold together. Break 2.5s. Remember, I am everywhere. Today, in 2026, Rabia Malik lives in what she calls reception mode. She picks up frequencies that other people do not seem to register. She feels the dead visit. She feels them often and uncontrollably. The visits are not, she says, comforting. They are exhausting. They are unrelenting. She has spent the 7 years since meeting Rosa trying to understand what is happening to her. Reading consciousness research, reading the early near-death experience literature, asking scientists, asking priests, asking imams. She does not have an answer. What she has is the sentence: remember, I am everywhere. Break twos. If you have been carrying a question for 19 years, if you have been waiting that long for a name, for a memory, for a confirmation, for permission to recognize what you already, on some quiet shelf of your own mind, recognized, then Rabia would tell you what the tall woman told her. The answer is not somewhere else. The answer is in the rooms where you have already been standing. It was always there. You did not invent it. Break twos. This is NDE Cosmic Legacy. If this story stayed with you, if it asked something of you that you have not yet had the language for, leave a single word in the comments below. A name, a place, a date. The one you have been carrying. The one you have not been allowed to forget. Break 1.5s. Next week we return with another case from the archive. Another person. Another moment of crossing. Another question that did not have an answer until the answer came to find us. Until then, light your lantern, and remember, she is everywhere.